detect the damage. What was the damage done for the data or the information that must be detected as soon as possible. Everything, even what you feel, will be stored as the data in a server. Virtual desktop infrastructure gives you the facility of flexibly adding and removing the service from your virtual desktop. We can add the services, we can remove the services. The team can change some of the codings without coming to the notice of the user. Hello students, welcome to the next session of Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics. I am Dr. Soumeshri from Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram College. In the last session, I told you about different benefits of using the cloud analytics, along with how does the testing environment under cloud will give the benefit to an organization. In this session, I'm going to explain you about the different security measures that can be taken for the data in the cloud. How does the data can be secured in case of cloud computing? Let's start with this session. The first thing we shall start with this session is the cloud security or the information security in the cloud. The information security is the important thing in case of cloud or anywhere you take. The security is the most important thing because today everything is in the form of the data. Everything, even what you feel, will be stored as the data in a server. That means you need to have a proper measure to secure the data or information that are stored in the cloud. Then how do you store or how do you secure the data that are in the cloud computing or cloud services? The information security risks are potential damages. They are the damages to the data. Nothing much can be done with the data or the information, but the thing is the data can be damaged in the way that data can get deleted or it can get modified. Now we have to take the measure to secure the data in the cloud. Okay. The information in case of cloud or in today's environment, information itself has become an asset. Okay. Now, if it is an asset, that means you have to secure the asset in the cloud, isn't it? So, you have to secure the data in the cloud. The successful organizations take a risk-based approach. We cannot assure that if you have stored a data, we cannot assure that you can secure the data for 100%. None of the data is 100% secured. In any one of the method, the data can be breached. But the thing is, even though there is no possibility of 100% security to any information, you have to ensure the client that your data is secure. That means you will get an encrypted data if you pass it through a network. So that assurance must be given to the client. Otherwise, none of the client will be ready to spend or invest money on the cloud without having a proper security measure. All right. The risk can be quantified by different kinds of damages based on the value of the asset, what kind of information you are storing and how much important is it and how much confidential is it. Based on that, the value will be given to the information. The damage can be made to the value of the asset. Asset's value can be reduced. The vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities is nothing but the chances of getting damaged or stolen by someone else. The vulnerabilities and the threats. Threats is to get damaged, or telling or getting the information that your data will be damaged. That means like a blackmailing. I'm going to damage your data, give me some ransom so that your data will be protected. So this type of damage can also be done for the information, because today information has become the asset. All right. The information security controls are safeguards, are countermeasures. Why do you need safeguards? Is to save the data or to secure them. So they are the countermeasures to avoid or minimize the security risks. You have to minimize. You cannot totally avoid the risk, but you can minimize the percentage of risk that can happen on a information. Okay. What is the characteristic the security measures must possess is it must be effective. You need to have effective measure of security. Then mitigate the risk. You must try to avoid the risk. If not possible, you have to detect the fault or risk immediately or as soon as possible, and take care that the data will be retained in the same form with the same confidentiality. All right. There will be 3 types of measures you can take over information or data. One is preventive. First one is you have to try maximum to prevent the stealing of the information or damaging the information. If not possible, preventing the risk was not possible, data was stolen or damaged, what you have to make is detect the damage. What was the damage done for the data or the information? That must be detected as soon as possible. Once you detect the damage made for the data, you have to take the corrective measures to rectify the faults or the damages that are made on the information. All right. Here we have the representation of the security, like we'll be having different control measures: preventive, detective and corrective. There will be again considering the effectiveness. If you are running a damage-free or risk-free algorithm, you have to check the effectiveness of the algorithm, whether it can detect the damage or not. Then what is the efficiency? Along with that, what is the impact of the control over the data? Like whether it is going to maintain the confidentiality, integrity and the availability of the data, or the security, it is going to, security measures you have taken are going to fulfill the security goals, confidentiality, integrity and the availability. Along with that, what are the limitations of the security measure? Like how much complex it is, how easily it is accessible, and what are the privileges that are given for a client on a data. All these things can be considered. Along with that, there will be a detective security control which discovers the attacks that are currently happening. First thing is you have to check for the preventive measures. You have to look for the preventive measures that may be present. If not possible, then you can run a security control measure which discovers the attacks which are going on in current, which are in progress. Then you can use the corrective measure. What does the corrective measure will do is decrease the impact post incident. The attack has been done. Attack is over. You cannot do anything now. You cannot prevent it. Attack has been done. Now what else you can make is you can minimize the or decrease the impact of damage on the information. So information must maintain its current state and the policies or goals of the cloud. Along with that, you can take the measure of preventing it. First thing you have to do is try to prevent it. If not possible, then detect and correct it. So preventive security control will try to stop threats in its tracks. So there will be all the three measures running parallelly. Each time the preventive measure is run, if the prevention was not possible, detection was done. Once the detection is successful, the corrective measure is taken to reduce the impact of attack on the information. All right. The cloud has the expectation of privacy in the information security. That means information security, the client from the cloud along with security, he expects the privacy from the cloud. He expects that the cloud must secure his privacy. It must not be attacked by someone else who are not authorized to view the information. The consumer expectation what is that security should be built into services themselves. So they have to give the security on the private information also. So number of potential cloud customers avoid the purchase on the online sites. Why they avoid online sites is due to fear of financial information being stolen. Whenever you may have observed the case of stealing of credit card information, debit card information, where whenever there is a purchase done online by a person, suppose I have made a purchase online using a credit card information or debit card information. What I am going to do is, I'll give the number of debit card, what is the expiry month, expiry year, the CVV, all the details will be filled, which will be obtained by someone else who are not authorized. In such a case, the information can be obtained by the intruder or the attacker who gets the information of the credit card and debit card and can use this information to steal the money from the account of someone else. So, most of the times, customers try to avoid the purchase of the product online because they fear that the financial information would have been stolen by someone else. So, there are chances of that. There are so many cases registered in a cybercrime department. The misuse of the card details that are stored in some other web pages. Like if I have stored the details in the Amazon or Flipkart or any online shopping site, it would have been stolen by someone else. So I fear that if my card details have been given to the Amazon, someone else may steal it. So I try to avoid the purchase using the debit card, and I prefer that I'll pay the money cash delivery. Cash on delivery will be selected by most of the customers because of the fear of stealing the information. Okay. So this expectation drives or expects that the regulation of the security for the information must be done by the cloud service providers. Okay. Enterprises must shore up their weakest supply chain customers, okay, or partners. They must take care that all the data of the customers will be protected for the maximum extent. So what is the best method is using the encryption method to hide the information from the attacker, and decryption for only the authenticated user. All right. So here we have the expectation of the privacy. All right. Next concept that I'm going to explain, or that I'm going to give you, is the virtual desktop infrastructure. Okay. The virtual desktop infrastructure gives you a view of, or virtualization of, creating a desktop in your personal computer or personal system. So the cloud helps you in creating a virtual desktop for your system. All right. The virtual desktop infrastructure provides the end user virtualization solutions. If you have taken a desktop, the entire desktop may be virtualized, may not be actual, but may be virtualized. That means this is designed to help transform the distributed IT. If you have distributed system of different branches of a single organization, they can have a virtual desktop which is not actual, but everything will be stored in the cloud without my notice. If I am the user of a system, if I'm going to store anything in the system, automatically it will be stored in the cloud instead of the local server. Here, the entire desktop will be virtual, not real. Okay, everything that you have used, you have done in the desktop will be stored in the cloud, not in the local personal system or local server. Okay, which becomes virtualized open standard based framework, which reduces the disadvantage of centralized IT services. Each time, if I am asked that whether I must store the data in local server or cloud, sometimes I may choose the option of the local server, thinking that my data that I'm going to store is confidential, so I'll store that in local server. What does the virtual desktop will do is, without asking anything to the user of the system, it will store everything to the cloud. Okay. What is the intention behind this virtual desktop is to run desktop operating system and applications. The entire operating system and the desktop, everything will become cloud. That means you can just have a monitor and can perform everything without the help of a CPU. The basic CPU is needed for internet running, and you can do all your tasks in the cloud, where the entire desktop and the operating system will be in the cloud environment. Okay, which will be running under the virtual machines that will be residing on the servers in some remote data center. Data center may be in America, or maybe in Australia, maybe near North Pole, or maybe near South Pole, wherever it is, but you can use those entire operating system, data and virtual desktop to perform your operations and store the data over the cloud. Okay, this is called as the virtual desktop, where everything will be virtual, not real. Even the operating system will also be obtained from the cloud, not in the local PC. What is the advantage of this virtual desktop is? Reduces the cost as well as minimizes the space required to perform all these things. Okay. User access a virtual desktop through their desktop PC. You can have a virtual environment which is not real, but you can use it as real environment. Everything will be under the control of the cloud. Okay. Here, even the server can be virtualized, where server virtualization is the masking of server resources. You are not dedicated, or you are not given a dedicated server, but a copy of the server will be given to you, including the number and identity of individual servers. Everything will be a copy, not the actual server is given to you or dedicated to your usage, but only the copy of the server will be given to you. Not only servers, the processors and even the operating system can also be virtualized to use by the users or the clients. Everything can be virtualized. So here we have a storage area network. SAN stands for storage area network, which stores all the data that you are going to operate. You will be having the copy of the server, which will be running under these virtual machines. All right. So you'll be having a virtual desktop, which helps the complexity of the data or everything residing in a local PC. This virtual desktop infrastructure delivers a solution which consists of the optional interface. There will be optional interfaces that are available in the infrastructure or VDI, which gives you the feel of the normal PC. And PC with client components or web browser. You can have the client components and the web browser, which are even the virtual desktop. They are also virtual, but you can use it as the normal web browser. Along with this, the virtual desktop delivers a common standard-based IT infrastructure which are security rich, which are secured more than your normal desktop, which are scalable. You can expand the memory. You need not to worry about the memory because it is based on cloud and provides the single point consistent access from a client server. You can do all these things, accessing an running an operating system, accessing the softwares, running the project and storing the data. Everything can be done by a local PC, which are everything but operated in a cloud environment. It will gives you the feel of actual desktop but are client based. All right, here we have the diagrammatic representation of the virtual desktop infrastructure where you have the client. Okay, these client are going to get the copy of the operating system along with login page, license management, data store. Everything will be virtual. It will be authenticated even. You can have the authentication of the usage, like there will be storage here. There will be a provisioning engine which gives provisions and deprovisions the services you have obtained from the cloud. Then virtualization software will be there over the provisioning engine, which gives you the feel of actual desktop. Okay. Then there will be a layer of virtualization. The applications will be running here, which can be obtained, authenticated and can be operated as a normal desktop. All right. So this helps in reducing the cost as well as the single point consistent form of data can be obtained by using the virtual desktop infrastructure. Okay. Along with that, the architecture overview of the virtual desktop infrastructure tells that it creates a framework which offers many advantages. What are the advantages of the VDI or the virtual desktop infrastructure is? One is the cost reduction. As I said, reducing the cost and even flexible. If you don't want a service or if you don't want a software, you can just remove it from the desktop, which is no more available to you, but is there in the cloud. Next time, if you want that software, you can get the service from the cloud very easily. If you have in your local PC, if you have a software and you delete that thinking that you don't need that software anymore. But after some duration, if there is a need of the same software, you cannot reinstall the software easily. You have to do so many courses or so many tasks to reinstall those softwares in your PC, isn't it? So the virtual desktop infrastructure gives you the facility of flexibly adding and removing the service from your virtual desktop. Along with that, it gives you a form of security, not maybe 100%, but gives you maximum security to your data. Availability, can access the data from anywhere, from using any electronic device, like you can access the data from the telephone, mobile phone, or maybe from desktop, or maybe from tablet, or maybe from a kiosk. From anywhere, you can get the information. All right. And efficiency. The efficiency of the data availability will be more when compared to the data availability in the normal desktop. All right. Here we have the virtual desktop infrastructure. Here we have the operating system desktop. Even the operating system will be virtualized. Here we have the applications, terminal services like different applications over the operating system. Then we have virtual desktop with the data, different applications, guest apps. That means for time being, a service has been taken, an application has been downloaded, which can be called as the guest app. After some duration, say 1 week, the service will be taken back by the cloud, which will be deleted from your desktop. So you need not to worry about whether it has been deprovisioned or not. Okay. Along with that, the virtual desktop infrastructure can be used even in the enterprise level, in the business level or organization level. How do they use the virtual desktop infrastructure in this? In the enterprise level, the virtual desktop provides a great or higher level of the virtual desktop to the organization. The demand and the services required by a normal client will be different from that of a client who is an employee of an organization or an enterprise. So the form of desktop that will be given or that will be obtained by an employee of the enterprise will be different. The virtual desktop introduces a new method of delivering and managing the data over the desktop environment. Instead of actual, everything can be done over the virtual desktop. In an enterprise level, the client will be given even a virtual desktop. They have product developed in an enterprise. It must be delivered to the client. But before actually delivering the product, what does the enterprise will do is, it will give the virtual desktop of how does the product will run when it is actually delivered, which gives you which gives the client a hint of how does the product is going to run when it is actually implemented in their personal computer. So the virtual desktop infrastructure gives the facility of delivering and managing the user desktop environment. That means the user desktop will be given as a virtual to the user, where whenever the development team looks at the working of the product, that means there will be user using a product. So that usage will be viewed by the development team. How does the product is running in the user environment? If there is any service or extra supporting files needed for the product, the development team can easily incorporate that service into the virtual desktop of the user, which reduces the time of correction of the mistakes or correction of the bugs in the system. It reduces the complexity of bug correction in the product. He can add the services, he can remove the services, the team can change some of the codings without coming to the notice of the user. Okay, even the user will be in an advantageous stage where he can view how does the product will actually work when it is implemented or when it is delivered. Okay, all these facilities can be obtained by the virtual desktop with minimum cost. You need not invest too much on the extra tools. You need not to go to the user's place to check whether the product is running properly or not. All these things can be utilized, or all these things can be achieved just by implementing a virtual desktop in the user environment. So every task or every correction, anything can be done by the enterprise without getting it to the notice of the user, which gives the better quality of product when it is finally delivered to the client. All right. Next is, how does the client access can benefit from the virtual desktop. Okay, there will be a virtual desktop manager who helps the user to connect their desktop to the servers. So the manager will help the user to connect to the virtual desktop. Okay, this service is provided by all the virtual desktop vendors and supported by set of products. Everything is not available, but are supported by the set of products that connects the remote clients to the centralized virtual desktop. It will be in the private cloud of the enterprise. So this virtual desktop from the private cloud of the enterprise can be given to the user for the usage of the product. Okay, this process of provisioning the client access to the virtual desktop is known as connection brokering. The connection is given as a testing for the client, or you can give a virtual desktop for the permanent solution. So it will be the permanent solution. The user need not to store anything. Everything will be stored in the cloud of the enterprise. Okay. What are the benefits for the end users is they can use existing PC and running operating system. If they have the old operating system, there is no point in changing the personal computer, because they can use the same personal computer with the same old operating system, but everything will be done in the cloud as a virtual desktop, where the user initiates a remote session. Whenever the user boots into his personal computer, a remote session will be created in the VDI resource or virtual desktop infrastructure resource using a remote desktop client application or a web browser. He can use by creating a session. Whenever he logs into the cloud, a session is created to the client where the client can use all the facilities of the virtual desktop provided by the enterprise. Okay. In the next session, I'm going to explain you much about the different cloud offerings given by the cloud environment. Thank you.